retreat with me. You're made for more. And that more sometimes feels difficult when we're pointing it in the direction of pushing other people away. But I can assure you, the protection that you take, the revolution that you experience based on the next involution opportunity, it will change the dynamic of your relationships. It will change the dynamic of your life. It will change the legacy of your children and your children's children. And your purpose will evolve into something far greater than you've ever experienced. Sometimes you just need to retreat. Get out of the territory lines. Get out of the enemy fire. Figure it out for yourself and get aligned to the superior power so that, one, they can implode, and they will. I say they hypothetically. I'm not sure who you're pointing your finger at, because in this process of involution, you stop pointing fingers and you start raising your hand. Whew, it's needed. And boy, it sucks. Because in a revolution, you have this idea, you have this revelation, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm never going to do that thing again. I don't want to stay in this addicted mentality. I don't want to stay depressed. I don't want to stay in this hospital. I don't want to stay in this bed. I'm tired of sitting on the couch and watching everybody else's dreams come true. Why am I stuck? Your ego is stuck. We have to free thyself. Come into your personal power and move from pointing fingers to raising our hands. It took me years of therapy, to be honest, to move from that place, both in my marriage and in my family, and ultimately in society. Because a lot of things I could blame. I could blame sex culture. I could blame alcoholism from family dynamics. I could blame DNA. You could too. I could blame media or politics or my community or my government. I could blame a lot of things and people. I could name specific internet sources that that took control over my life when I was little. The algorithm. Are you complaining about the algorithm? Are you pointing to the algorithm? That social media keeps you depressed, it keeps you comparing, it keeps you isolated, it keeps you in a place of fear and judgment of thyself. You're burnt out, you're overwhelmed. Have you retreated recently? Because the involution, when you stop pointing fingers and you start raising hand, means you're taking an inventory. An inventory. You found a place to exhale. Do you know how terrible it is for your system to constantly be in fight, flight, or freeze mode? To constantly feel like you're jabbing and hooking and moving and ducking and trying to roll out from the enemy warfare that's happening around you? You need a place to exhale. You need a place to fully release. You know, people talk about this in a mastermind setting and they say, let's do this professionally. Let's come together because I know all the CEOs in the room are tired. We're constantly doing this, actually. Maybe you do a girlfriend's getaway. Maybe you do it with the guys and you guys are all in the man cave. You're retreating from social norms, which is marriage, which is the life as we know it. And we're giving ourselves excuses, still pointing fingers, rather than raising our hand and saying, you know what, I don't need that this time. I need something different. In the professional environment, we can do this, but what happens often is that place that I told you, that narcissism, is where people are hanging out. And it's now affecting your personal evolution and personal power play, and you can't get out of it. And therefore, you literally resort back to those suppression ideas of you're not good enough. Your mind will become your biggest battlefield. Have you retreated from your mind lately? This is what meditation is. This is what manifestation is. This is what having a supernatural encounter through prayer and worship is. Take your focus off yourself and start getting aware of everything else. Revolution is environment. Involution is personal identity. And in your exhale, you might become aware of your very breath. The breath that you've been ignoring because you've been panting, because you've been exhausted, because you're just trying to catch your breath every 2 seconds. If you've never done Wim Hof breathing, highly recommend. He has a phenomenal retreat that takes place in Greenland where you polar plunge, and oh my gosh, it's absolutely amazing. But he literally heals himself. He will have actual medical facilities inject different elements of the flu or stuff into his body. He can breathe his way out of it. This past week when I was sick, I was like breathing in bed, and my husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm just Wim Hof breathing. I'm going to breathe my way past this. This is going to go away. I believe it." I was laying my own hands on my own throat to heal it supernaturally because I believe, because I have seen, and because I am told, and because I know. And so belief connected to involution is when you can have an encounter. Because you've retreated, because you've exhaled, because you've come back into a place of gratitude and you're existing in thanksgiving over the breath that is yours, over the control that you do have, and the control that is now being manifested to you based on your divine power. God, He is for you. He is not against you. But sometimes in the battlefield, we're like, are we fighting God? God, why are you doing this to me? Why am I having this sickness? Why am I fighting this person again? Why do I keep losing this position? Why do I not get this next position? God, you gave me that dream and you are not bringing it to fruition. God, I've been praying. I've been doing all the things. I think you've got stuck in narcissism. Thinking that you're owed something. Thinking that everything around you, perhaps even the divine power, owes you something. You're His child after all. But I don't know about you, if you're a mama or a dad, you know that you don't tie the kids' shoes forever. You don't make their lunch forever. You don't brush their teeth forever. There has to be an element of ego, of identity, of personal power connected to that so that you can exist fully on earth in your natural body for a temporary time, but in the knowing and the believing that you can evolve past this place of everyone owes me and I need this, or you need to believe this about me, and come into the higher sense of self, which is the evolution. This is Gandhi. This is Mother Teresa. They know who they are, but they had to, for a season, look a little nutty. Mother Teresa got kicked out of 2 different community congregations because they didn't like the way she was doing something. They didn't like how giving she was. They didn't like how free of voice and choice she was. When I didn't go to some of my family functions for over a year, they told me I was in a cult. They started calling me a Bible thumper. They would drive past my house and just completely ignore my children. Man, it sucks, doesn't it? It can totally suck. But when you are coming in to that place of involution, and I don't have to point my fingers when they're driving by, I get to raise my hand and be like, yeah, I was a part of this problem. I was allowing this to happen. And no matter what happened in your childhood, no matter what is happening to you right now, you cannot make excuses. Because excuses allow ego to go to bed. And we need your ego to energize your evolution so that we can have a revolution as a society. Wow!